Hey friends, it's Simon Hurley from Simon Hurley Create with Ranger, and I'm here at Scrapbook.com. Today we're going to be walking you guys through all the different properties of my Lunar Paste. Lunar Paste is a really beautiful, shiny metallic paste, and I'm excited for you guys to check it out. Let's get into it. So here is one of the Lunar Pastes. This one is slippery when wet, and let's open this up and check out what's inside. It is this super creamy and buttery smooth paste. It's a little bit thinner than a normal texture paste, but it still holds all of the amazing texture and dimension. So I'm going in with one of the tools from the Simon Hurley Create tool set for these pastes, and when I put this onto black cardstock, you can already see that amazing shine that is coming out. Check that out. And when this dries, it gets even shinier, which is super exciting. Now you can apply it on thick with a palette knife like this. Again, you can kind of hold some of that texture in there, which is really amazing, or you can kind of smooth it out if you want to as well. Now what's also super cool about this is you can go in with your finger or a blending tool, and you can also apply it to the surface really thin like this and almost burnish it in, which when it's dry creates almost this metallic shine, and it looks like you've created your own metallic cardstock. That's a really beautiful way to apply it as well, and when you apply it super thin like that, it only takes 1 or 2 minutes to dry completely and have your finished project done. Now when it comes to paste, you can always have one paste and kind of mix in your own re-inkers or colors. But I found that I didn't love to kind of do all that mixing and where do I store it if I have too much, or what if I do if I don't make enough of the color in the middle of my project and I have to bring it back out and make even more. So the really awesome part about these lunar pastes is they're already dyed that specific color for you. So it's got that really deep, rich, intense color, which I really love. And also, each one of these are made with a different pearl powder. So the cool part about that is when we pull it out here, check out that awesome green. This one's called Fake Plant. When we pull it out of this packaging and we put it down onto our project, it's going to have that really great intense color, but it's also going to shine that color. So instead of it being kind of a white metallic shine that you would get if you mixed in dye ink to it, this has that pearl powder in there, and each one is going to have its own unique shine, which is just beautiful. That also means that the color is going to stand out on dark cardstock like this. So when you have all these different colors and their own pearl powders, when you apply it to black, they all look beautiful. So I wanted to share this is one of the examples that I've created. We're going to be creating a background similar to this one. Check out all that amazing shine using 4 of the Lunar Paste colors. Now when it comes to this Lunar Paste, the awesome part about it is it's also super flexible. It's a lot more flexible than normal texture paste that would make your cardstock a little bit more rigid. And the really awesome part about that is it's not going to chip off. It's totally on there, and your project is pliable like this without cracking off. One thing that's really awesome about these, and because I'm impatient, I'll share this secret with you guys. I use a heat tool on these all the time. It really helps to speed up the drying process and makes it a lot easier for your project to be quickly dry, and then you can move on to the next step. So I bring in my Ranger heat tool. Again, just keep your heat tool moving around the surface like this, and it'll really help dry these nicely. And like I said, you can see as it's drying here, the shine comes out even more, and it's super intense and rich. Check out all of that amazing shine once these are dry, and when these are done, they won't come off on your hand at all. So if I rub my finger onto these, nothing comes off on my fingers, which is really amazing. I love it when it's stuck to the card, but it's still got all that amazing shine. Now there are several ways you can apply Lunar Paste through a stencil. Here I'm going to use the stained glass stencil, and I'm going to show how to apply it a little bit thinner so that it dries quicker, and will also give you less texture, but still all the same color and shine. So I'm going to tape this down to a little bit of my black cardstock here, using a little bit of mint tape. I love this masking tape because it's not going to rip my cardstock, but it's going to protect anything that we don't want colored. Now, when we're using a sponge, I want kind of a thin application of color. So I'm going to go in with a couple of different colors here, starting off with a little bit of triple berry, and I like to apply this down to a craft sheet first before I pick it up on the surface. And I apply it nice and thin using my Simon Hurley Create palette knife, and then any excess can go right back in the jar. And again, this is what I was talking about, using different colors. If I need more, I can always go back into this jar, and it's going to be the exact same color I was using earlier, which is really nice. So then I'll go in with a little bit of bee sting, bring out a little bit more, and then lay it down onto the craft sheet like this. Then last but not least, I'll bring in a little bit of Roar, which is this really bright orange color. I love this one. And again, we'll apply it down onto our craft sheet to make sort of a palette of color. And any excess can go right back into the jar. Then I'm going to take the mini ink blending tool, and I like these flat foams for going through a stencil using my Lunar Paste. So I'm just going to take the blending foam and dip it into the Lunar Paste like this, pick up a little bit off the surface. You don't want too much, because if there's too much on here, it might run underneath your stencil with the foam. So you just want to kind of get a little bit, and then simply go in kind of circular motions to blend this onto the surface. I find circular motions are best when you're blending on the paste, but you can also kind of tap it through like this. You'll just get a lot more of that texture, because it is in fact a texture paste, so it's going to be nice and thick and keep that texture if you want it. But here I want to kind of smooth it out to get that nice metallic shine on there. Blending it right through. Then we can go in. I'm just going to use the same foam here because I'm using darker colors as we progress upwards. I'll go in with a little bit of bee sting, and then again use a circular motion as we're blending, and it'll kind of blend in between these colors, almost like an ink as well. So just blend in between these two colors and then work your way upward to add down more of that color. And then last but not least, we'll bring in a little bit of triple berry, and you can always tap off if you have a little bit too much color, but then bring that in onto the surface and again start blending in that circular motion. If you need more color, go off to the side in our palette here and dip it right into there. And then blend this on the surface like this to get a nice smooth application of color. All right, so once this is done, we can lift off the tape and peel off the stencil for our final reveal. And check that out. I love all the amazing shine that we get. And once this is nice and dry in a couple minutes, it'll have even more shine to it. So I'll bring it back in a second. But in the meantime, let's talk about cleaning off our surface. So when it comes to cleaning off stencils, you want to clean these off right away. And when this paste is still wet, it'll react with water nicely and come off your stencils easily. But once it's dry on your surface, it won't react with water like an ink would. So I'm going to go in here with my spray bottle, spray that down, and then we can bring in a paper towel and just start wiping off the surface. And again, like I said, you can see that once this is still wet, it comes off really easily. That's one thing I love about Lunar Paste, is if you clean it right away, it is really nice and easy to clean off your surface. Now when it comes to your blending tool, this is saturated with Lunar Paste, and we want to clean it out, because if you leave it in there, it's going to be crusty and it's not going to work the next time you want to use it. So with this, you can either peel this off and take it underneath the sink to wash it out, or you can just go in with a sprayer, misting it with some water, and then I just go onto a paper towel and dab it out. You want to kind of dab until your blending tool turns back to white, and then your sponge will be nice and clean and ready to reuse over and over. And in our downtime while we were cleaning, those couple of minutes already has this Lunar Paste nice and dry. Like I said, when you apply it thin like that, it really is super quick to dry, and check out all of that amazing shine and color that we have. And like I said, each one of those has a different pearl powder in it, so each one looks a little bit different when it shines. It's not going to all have that same kind of iridescent look. They all have a different color in there, which is beautiful on the black cardstock. Now you're probably wondering, what are you going to do with this little bit of extra that we have off the side as well? This can be a really fun technique. I like to spray it down with a little bit of water, and then I'll bring in a piece of white or black cardstock. Either will work well. The black gives a really nice kind of bold look, and then we can kind of dip it in here, almost like we would with ink smooshing, and just pick it up off the craft sheet. That's why this craft sheet is really great to work on. And you're just going to kind of dab it in there and pull, and you'll get lots of amazing color onto the surface from just the waste that you would have usually cleaned up. So you can keep kind of dabbing it in the surface there until you like the look of this background. It doesn't look like a lot right now. It looks like a little bit of a mess. But then we can go in with our heat tool and heat this up, which is going to remove any of the moisture from the surface, bring it back to our black cardstock, and then reveal all of that amazing shine. So once that's nice and dry, check out all of that intense shine that you get. I just love it, and of course you could use this as kind of a galaxy background, or you can take this scrap piece and cut it out with die cuts so that you have different shapes cut out of it with all of that intense shine there. I just love that you're able to get two backgrounds out of this one little bit of Lunar Paste. All right, next we're going to be creating this really beautiful card with this polka dot background, and check out all of that shimmer and shine from the Lunar Paste. So let's jump right into it. Here I'm going to be using my stark white cardstock. Next I'll use the tiny dot stencil. I love this one because it's got these little fine dots on it. I use it for a lot since it's so versatile. And I'm going to go in with a little bit of mint tape and tape this down onto our surface here. Next, I'll bring in a few colors of lunar paste. Here I'm starting off with a little bit of shooting star. I love this bright, vibrant yellow color. And I'm just going to grab a little bit of this paste and kind of add a clump of it to one side here. So just kind of layer it up a little bit thicker than you usually would on one side. And I'm going to show you guys how to kind of smooth this paste out with the next technique and tool that we'll be using. So once I'm done with this, we can move on into Psych. I love this color too. This one's almost like a greenish gold color. I think it's just beautiful. And again, we'll bring a little bit of this out and add it down into the side. And a little bit more than you usually use because we're going to spread it across. Last but not least, we'll bring in a little bit of Tropical Tango. And this is just a beautiful teal color. I'll bring it in on the bottom here and smooth it out in this corner. All right, we'll add any excess back into the jar, and then we can smooth this out over top of our background. All right, then we'll bring in the scraper tools, and there's 2 in a pack with this paste tool set. So you get the scraper we've been using and this large scraper tool that you can put all across your background. And I like to use this to smooth things out. So with this, all you need to do is place your scraper tool on one edge like this, and then you're going to swipe it all the way across this background. And you still got lots of paste on here. So instead of holding it vertically like this as you're applying it, kind of put it down like this so that it'll apply more to your cardstock and use all of that excess there. And just keep spreading it across until it reaches both ends of the cardstock, and then it's super smooth too. It's a little bit difficult to get it perfectly smoothed out with a palette knife like this because it's so small of a surface area, but with this, it's super easy to just run this across the surface and get just enough of that lunar paste on there. Check that out, how easy was that? I'll show you guys how to use any of the excess, but first, let's lift this off and see what we got. A perfect polka dot background. And again, I just love how smooth these are across the surface. It's still got great texture and dimension because we applied it with a palette knife there, but then that scraper tool really gets it nice and smooth like this, so you can see all of that metallic shine. And like I said, there's still some excess lunar paste on this tool. So I'm going to take it on a piece of black cardstock or whatever other color you want and just use this excess. So check that out. You can even scrape a little bit more onto there and you get tons of color. So the really awesome part about this is if you want to, you can put an image on top of this background, and once it's dry, you can totally die cut through the lunar paste, which creates a really great shape with all of that metallic color and shine. So don't forget to use any of the excess paste that's still on your tool. It turns out beautifully. I've heat set that for a couple minutes to dry, and look at all of that shine. I'm telling you guys, once this stuff dries, it becomes even more metallic, and I just love it. So to move into this, I want a little bit of a border, so I'm going to go in with my trimmer and just cut a little bit off of this background, just so that we have a nice white border in the end. So I'll trim off a little bit on this side, and then a little bit from this side as well. Now the really cool part about lunar paste is that each color of the lunar paste matches a color of ink from our product line. So here we have Shooting Star, and it matches the ink perfectly. Same thing with Psych and Tropical Tango, and there are lots of other colors of lunar paste that match our inks beautifully, which is really nice when it comes to doing techniques. So for this, I want to add ink onto this background so that the whole thing is colored, but that these dots still shine beautifully. So what I'm going to do is bring in the coordinating colors and a little bit of my domed blending foam on the blending tool, and we'll go in here and blend this out with a little bit of ink. I'm going over the area where I've applied the lunar paste in the Shooting Star color to kind of match it up and create a nice blend over top. Next, I'll bring in a little bit of Psych, which is this really great lime green color. I go in again with another new blending foam and blend right over top of that color. It's going to blend into the yellow beautifully because these inks blend so nicely, and then it'll also kind of match the color tone that's on top of it. I love doing this sort of tone-on-tone effect, and then it really makes the metallic come to life. And last but not least, I'll bring in a little bit of Tropical Tango and one more blending foam here and blend it out on the bottom. And then again, this is going to blend in beautifully with Psych and make a whole new beautiful color in between it. So check that out. You get kind of a little bit of contrast when they look like this, but then once it shines, it perfectly matches that color, and it is so beautiful. I love how this background turned out. Now the Lunar Paste is shiny and it's going to resist the ink, so if there's any excess ink that's sitting on top of the surface, you can go in with a paper towel to kind of buff that color off and reveal that shine once again. And check out that background. I love how it looks when you kind of hold it like this. It's got a little bit of contrast to it, and then when you see all that shine, it matches the color perfectly, and that shine is just stunning. To finish off this card, I'm going to bring in the slimline stamp called Fresh Cut Flowers. I love these detailed flowers and all of the amazing images you can stamp a slimline card with. But the really awesome part about this is that it's a peel apart background stamp. So a lot of these different florals peel apart. When you first get it, it has little kind of tabs that connect it. But once those are kind of ripped off, you're good to go and ready to stamp out these images. And lots of them come apart. So you can have this little flower stem up here. I think this one is just beautiful. You've got a couple different leaves as well to peel apart out of here. And what this means is you can stamp them individually. There's a couple more too. You guys can see the different peel apart areas. I'm going to take this large flower stamp and one of the leaves and add it down to an acrylic block. And then I'm really easily able to take these with some Jetpack archival ink to stamp down the detailed images. And the really cool part about having these individually is I'm able to use them more as focal points on my card, or I can create my own background with just using them. So it really gives you a lot of versatility when using a background stamp, because you can use it as a background, but it's also like you almost get a full stamp set along with it, which is so cool. Then I'm going to ink up the leaf and stamp it down right next to it on my card. Now I like to just quickly go in and heat set this. This is just because I'm going into ink blending next, so I want it to be completely dry before I move on to the next step. All right, next I'm going to grab a couple of my inks. Here I'm starting off with a little bit of Shooting Star, and this is my favorite way of coloring these in super easily. So for this one, I'm just going to go on this image and do some ink blending starting from the center and not worry if I go over the lines at all. It does not matter. And then I'm going to go in with a little bit of Roar as well. This one I'm going to bring in more kind of central to the center of the flower to add a little bit of shading onto those petals. So that little bit of orange there is going to really add tons of depth and dimension to the flower. And then to finish it off, we want to go right in the center of the flower. And for this, I'm going to be using these detail blending tools. I love these little detail tools, and it comes in a pack of 5, and they're dual-ended. But these are really great for when you want to color in these images, but there's a really small space you have to get into. So here, I want to color in the center of the flower, almost like a sunflower would be. And I'm going to color it in using a little bit of Gur. Just going right in the center here. And then also to add even more darker depth and dimension, I'm using a little bit of Weeping Willow, which is this really great, super dark and intense brown color. And I'll just add that to one side here to again just add a little bit of shading down there and blend that into the rest of the brown. Then with the leaf, I'll go in using a little bit of Psych. I love this for leaves because it kind of really brings it to life. It's a super nice bright green tone. And then to darken it up a little bit and add some shading to this, I'll go in using a little bit of Tropical Tango, bring this in, and use again a domed blending tool to just add some shading to one side of it. Check that out. I love the beautiful green color that mixing these two together creates. All right, then I'm going to go in with my scissors, and I'm just going to fussy cut around these. Now this is why it doesn't matter if you went over the edge, because we saved a lot of time in our coloring there by just being able to shade them in using our blending tools. It's easy to just go in and take a little bit of extra time on this step to fussy cut these out. So whenever I'm fussy cutting, I like to just go kind of right up to the edge but leave a little bit of a border. And the border's not going to stand out too much here because we ink blended over the edge, so it's going to be still the same exact color as the coloring that we did on the image. So once we've got these all finished, you can then adhere them together on your card like this. Use a little bit of foam tape to pop that flower up, and then add a sentiment down onto the surface as well. I love how this turned out using that background with the scraper tool and those beautiful lunar pastes, adding ink over top, and then finishing it off with a focal point from the fresh cut flowers stamp. I hope you guys really enjoyed these card projects. In the next episode, we're going to cover even more techniques using Lunar Paste. I'm so excited for you guys to see all of the things these can do.